The land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are on the lands of Anishinaabe Nation. This spot where we gather is the traditional lands of the Three Fires Confederacy, the Ottawa, Potawatomi, and Ojibwe. We also recognize that this land is now home to the Delaware Nation. This land was settled through the McKee Purchase Treaty of 1790, and we as beneficiaries of the treaty must recognize our responsibilities, including our collective responsibilities to the land and water. There is not a supplementary agenda this evening. Rules for the council chambers. The municipality of Chatham-Kent supports open meetings that welcome debate of public policy issues in an atmosphere of inclusiveness, integrity, civility, fairness, and respect for differing points of view. Anyone conducting themselves in a way that disrupts, disturbs, or impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting, interrupts or makes derogatory statements or hate speech, defamatory comments about councillors, staff, speakers, or fellow members of the public may result in removal from the premises. We ask that you do not approach council members if they are seated in their council seat around the council horseshoe. The use of posters, signage, and literature is also prohibited. We have one disclosure of pecuniary interest this evening, and that is Councillor Carmen McGregor on item 11C, the planning application for consent and zoning bylaw amendment for Neil and Robert Marchand at 9808 Baseline, Community of Chatham. Mr. Mayor, we'll now move on to planning services.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. So the process to be followed for each application will be as follows. 1, the clerk will announce each individual planning item. 2, the mayor will ask if there's anyone present other than the applicant with an interest in the application and to indicate so by raising their hand. 3, the clerk will advise if written or video submissions have been received. 4, if someone present other than the applicant indicates an interest in the item, there will be a presentation by administration. 5, individuals with an interest in the application other than the applicant will be asked to proceed to the podium, provide their name and address, and address council. 6, the applicant will be asked if they wish to proceed to the podium and address council. 7, administration will be asked if they have any comments based on any discussion that may have occurred. And 8, council will be asked what action it wishes to take with regards to each item. Notice. If any specified person under the Planning Act that files an appeal of a decision of council in respect to the proposed applications does not make oral or written submissions to the municipal clerk before the proposal is approved, they are not entitled to appeal a decision to the Ontario Line Tribunal, unless in the opinion of the tribunal there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party to the appeal. Information on council's actions tonight will be posted on the municipal website. All persons who have made a request or have made an oral or written submission regarding a particular planning item will receive a notice of council's decision, and any other person who wishes to receive a notice of decision must submit a written request to the municipal clerk. Thank you.
11A, applications for consent and zoning bylaw amendment. Deborah Botham and Jean Marsh, 140 Main Street West, Community of Ridgetown, East Kent. Mr. Acting Mayor, there are no conflict of interest and no deputations were received today.
Is there anyone present other than the applicant and or their agent with an interest in the application and to indicate so by raising their hand? Thank you. Mr. Josk.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. This is somebody who's in attendance as part of the applicants group. So I'm not sure. Did you want to go forward with the presentation still, or?
Would you like to speak, ma'am? No, just here to observe. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Can I get a mover and seconder? Councillor McDonald and Councillor Wright.
Happy to move that. I'll second it. Thank you.
Is there any questions? Please put this item to vote.
Councillor Bondi? And Councillor Harrigan?
Yes.
All votes are in. Motion passes 17-0. Next item is 11B, applications for consent and zoning bylaw amendment. Kenneth Ashton, 15402 Selton Line, Community of Orford, East Kent. There were no conflict of interest, and no deputations were received.
Is there anyone present other than the applicant and/or their agent with an interest in the application and to indicate so by raising your hand? I see none. Can I get a mover and a seconder, Councillor Wright and Councillor McDonald?
I'll move that.
And I'll second.
Is there any questions regarding the application? I see none. Can we put the item to vote, please?
Councillor Harrigan? And Councillor Bondi? All votes are in. Motion passes 17-0. And the final planning application, 11C, applications for consent and zoning bylaw amendment, Neil and Robert Marchand, 9808 Baseline, Community of Chatham Township, North Kent. We have one conflict of interest by Councillor Carmen McGregor, and no deputations were received today.
Is there anyone present other than the applicant and/or their agent with an interest in the application and to indicate so by raising your hand? I see none. Can I get a mover and a seconder, Councillor McGrail and Councillor Jubenville?
I'll move that.
And I'll second it.
Are there any questions regarding this application? I see none. Can I put this item to vote, please?
Councillor Bondi? And Councillor Harrigan?
Yes.
All votes are in. Motion passes 16-0. We'll move on to deputations. Council, I did send the email out to you at noon today. We had three deputations this evening, all for item 16B, the motion of Councillor Sakachi, Rondo Park Barrier Beach. We have two that were just emails, and we do have the third one that's present this evening. I'll call upon Sharon Paff. I'll remind the deputation that there is a 5-minute time limit, and the timer will be on the screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Mayor and Councillors, for allowing me this opportunity. To begin, I fully support Councillor Sakachi's motion for the Rondo Park Barrier Beach. Council had the foresight to approve the Chatham-Kent Lakeshore study several years ago. The ZUZEC report released in 2021 was a science-based analysis which included historical data, the academic community from University of Waterloo, and significant community engagement. The local stakeholder and government representative advisory council has been very instrumental in developing the plan, which includes submissions of proposals for grant funding. Unlike the Leamington Area Project, Rondo Bay Barrier Beach Restoration Project has not been approved for any provincial or federal grant funding. I believe the continued active support from Chatham-Kent Council will have a positive influence on the probability of future funding. As a local resident, I'm extremely concerned regarding the threat to this shoreline and the exponential rate of deterioration. The Barrier Beach breach this summer was in a different location than it was in 2019, with a depth of approximately 18 inches at the peak point. A large area of vulnerability still exists even though there's been current closure of the breach. Should this protection provided by the Barrier Beach disappear, it's reasonable to expect that the current bay water levels will rise and adversely affect the surrounding communities, which includes farmlands, and the whole bay ecosystem. Ariel is an active tourist area adding to the economy of Chatham-Kent. Seagull Island is a key contributor to maintaining the natural environment that welcomes the public to its community. As residents, we want to prevent any negative financial, quality of life implications, or ecological habitat hazards, which would be the result of inaction. I look forward to Chatham-Kent Council supporting this motion to ensure that our Chatham-Kent municipality plays a very active advocacy role in moving this restoration project forward.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the consent agenda. Council, no items had been removed this evening. Therefore, the following reports will be approved in one motion. Item 14A, B, and C, item 15A, item 16A, B, and item 17A and B.
Can I get a mover and a seconder for the consent agenda? Councillor Crew, followed by Councillor Doyle.
I'll move that.
I'll second that.
Can Madam Clerk put the item to vote, please?
Councillor Harrigan
Yes.
and Councillor Bondi. All votes are in. Motion passes 17-0.
Notice is a motion. Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Whereas administration has forecasted the tax increase for 2025 to be 9.4%, therefore be it resolved that a 7.5% departmental budgetary annual decrease be realized. The reduction can be achieved with a maximum allowance of 2.5% reduction in frontline services to the public.
Councillor Story.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Sakachi. I'm just going to bring it up here. Whereas deputations allow the mayor and councillors to listen to the people who elected them, and local governments demonstrate they are open and accessible to the views of its citizens. Whereas under the procedural bylaw, item 7.10C, a public meeting was not held to provide the public the opportunity to make formal presentations on the next phase of the former Sears building proposal. Be it resolved that in-person deputations are permitted for the October 21st council meeting open session regarding the next phase of this proposal. Any deputations on this item must follow proper guidelines, meaning they must speak to the content of the recommendations in the report to council. All upcoming open session council meetings pertaining to moving the Civic Center, the Chatham-Kent Library, and/or the Chatham-Kent Museum to the former Sears building allow for in-person deputations under the procedural bylaw. And last but not least, in the event there are questions about any upcoming meetings on this issue and whether in-person deputations are permitted under the procedural bylaw, administration notifies council at least 3 weeks or 2 council meetings in advance, whatever is longer in duration, with a report to council providing clarification, along with notification to the public through all regular media channels. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Story. I have a motion as well. I, Councillor Anthony Sakachi, here provide notice that I'll be bringing the following item for voting discussion on the November 4th meeting of council. Whereas road safety and speeding are issues of concerns to the residents of Chatham-Kent, and whereas council has reiterated its commitment to road safety through the adaptation of the Road Safety Action Plan, as well as other measures, and whereas the Road Safety Action Plan has identified an emphasis on safety in school areas, pedestrians, and driver education, I therefore move that administration carry out an education campaign focused on the priorities identified in the Road Safety Action Plan, including speeding. Non-agenda business. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. Part of the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative, one of their big items for next year is to support a coastline beach cleanup. So my ask tonight is that we send a letter of support saying that we as a community, as Chatham-Kent, with the amount of coastline that we have, will support this project and facilitate in any way that we can. There's no financials included in this letter of support, just to say that we'll encourage any volunteers that are wanting to do it to participate, and that we'll utilize our media outlets to promote this cause. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we just have to do a show of hands, or is this an actual voting item?
We can do a show of hands if we have a mover and seconder, though.
Can we have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Anderson, followed by Councillor Crew. Is there anybody opposed? See no opposition, so moved.
Thank you, everyone.
Councilor Brock McGregor.
Thank you. I had a quick question for Edward. Received a message last week regarding a price update for the CK Hub proposed project that was substantial. So the rumor was, something like $100 million. I haven't seen a report with those numbers in. I don't think we've received any information back since our last meeting. So just wondered if you could comment on where we're at in that process and and confirm or comment on the number that is being rumored publicly right now. Thank you.
Thank you through you, Mr. Acting Mayor. In terms of process, we are coming back to council on October 21st, and that report will be made public on October the 7th. In terms of that number, there is absolutely no basis whatsoever for that number. That is just what it is. It is a false rumor.
Thank you.
Councilor Story.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is probably a question for Gord. It was recently brought to my attention that there are a number of, I would guess, big ticket items are the best way to describe them, that we haven't really talked about too much at council yet, that we have been looking at in the medium or near term. And the Wallaceburg Water Treatment Plant was mentioned specifically in this context. As we know, the safety and maintenance of our water treatment plants is extremely important, and that these are obviously not inexpensive endeavors. So it was mentioned specifically that, using this example, that it could be anywhere from $100 to $150 million or more. And in terms of the questions about how we're paying for items like that, could you explain a little more? I know we don't pay for our water rates through our tax dollars, but we do pay for them in other ways. Could you just give us a quick update on what that looks like and what else we might be facing on the scale of those numbers? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. So I just took a second to locate the documents so that if anybody wanted to look them up, they're all on our website. So if you're interested in the PUC master plan, it outlays their 20-year plans of what they're spending throughout Chatham-Kent, including the Wallaceburg water project. You can find them if you go to the website and the municipal homepage, and then under local government studies and plans, you can find the 2024 PUC master plan, which the commission went with a consultant went over the plan that comes to about $500 million, $500 million of projects over the next 10 years. And much more extending past that 10-year time frame. But that's in 2023 values when the study was completed. So as you build those over a 10-year time span, it could be upwards of $750 million that will be spent the remainder of this council and the next two councils on PUC. And then on the municipal capital side, also offered municipal website the multi-year budget. There was a approved capital budget, and if you go into, that's also under the local government section under budgets, and if you go into that on page 46, had the grand total of $330 million of capital projects over the next 10 years. However, that was our first crack at the multi-year capital budget. It's pretty accurate for 24 and 5, but past then, there's a lot of projects missing. So I would give an estimate of approximately $750 million that needs to be spent on municipal capital projects over the next 10 years. And as you that's in 2024 dollars. As you extend that out with inflation, that will be close to $1 billion. And then we have our growth items that we're having more information come to council over the next few months. But that could be another $250 million or so. So in total of capital infrastructure expenditures over the next 10 years of council. It's approximately $2 billion that this council and the PUC will be approving of projects over the next 10 years.
Thanks, Gord. I didn't have my calculator out when you were mentioning all that, but I appreciate that clarification. $2 billion is no small number, and I just bring it up because I think we're facing some substantial financial commitments the rest of this term and in the coming years, clearly, and it won't just be this term, that we'll be moving forward, but I think we really do have to be honest around this horseshoe and with the taxpayers about the type of costs we are facing and the type of costs that we don't have a choice in, and I think water treatment plants are probably one of those, and critical infrastructure, and the choices about the costs that we may have a choice about. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, because I know that number was eye-popping for me. $2 billion has to come from somewhere, and that's likely going to be either through our water rates and through our taxes, correct?
Yes, the sources of revenues, there is no cross-subsidization between the tax bill and the PUC water and wastewater bills. So anything on the PUC side will be paid through the water and wastewater rates, development charges, and any, if there were to be any upper level grants, none of which are guaranteed or promised to us at this time. And on the municipal side, it's development charges and the tax rate.
Thanks.
Plus any potential upper level grants.
Thank you. And just one last comment. You mentioned, and I appreciate you mentioning that some of those dollars are 2023 dollars, and we know very well what's happening to all of our costs. So even if something was presented to us as, a $50 million project, that could easily be substantially more by the time it gets to implementation.
Yes, but the further you go out in time, the more expensive the projects will be.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Wright?
Thank you, Acting Mayor Scotchy. I got a couple things. One is housing fire in Chatham here. Perhaps next month we could have an information report to know where we are on it. Rebuilding cost, where everybody's been located to, how this is going. I get a lot of questions and I don't know how to answer any of it. It's just be nice to have some information here to know where we are, so we know what the insurance is doing and everything else.
Mr. Duman, can you comment on that? Jody's back. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, for your question. Through you, Mr. Acting Mayor, happy to bring information back. We are looking to bring back a report to Council that also includes costing as well, so that you've got that information. I'm just not quite sure of the timing yet. Certainly can provide an email update in the meantime, and then definitely we'll be bringing a report back in the very near future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The other thing, this Saturday, Highgate Fair, 170th. It's Saturday afternoon. They welcome everybody out. Come on out and visit the World Fair. Thank you.
Councillor Anderson, did you have something that you wanted to add? I did see your hand go up there for a second. Are you?
No, thanks.
Going to turn it over to the CAO. He has a couple items that he wants addressed in non-agenda business. Mr. Dugan?
Thank you, Your Acting Worship. Just two quick things. First of all, if I can ask Tomo Matejcik to come up from our utility. We have an outage, a planned outage coming up in Tilbury very soon, and we just thought that perhaps Tomo and Allison from Fire might be able to give Council an update. It's as much for Council's information as it is for our media here, because this is a type of thing that the more people that know about it, the less they'll be inconvenienced. So if I can turn it over to Tomo.
Thank you. Through you, Acting Mayor Scotchy, just wanted to inform Council of a planned outage that was happening in Tilbury on October the 6th. It is an outage that will be town-wide. Hydro One is informed that they're doing work on the transmission lines that feed the station that serves the town of Tilbury, so all of Tilbury and the rural area will be out. The outage is planned right now for Sunday, October the 6th, with a rain date of Sunday, October the 14th, same time. So from 7 a.m. till 2 p.m. is the current scheduled outage. And we wanted to make sure that all of the individuals in the community are well aware of the outage so they can make appropriate plans. Now, Integris has already been working with EMS here in Chatham-Kent to make plans around the outage. We have already contacted today all of the large customers in the community, so all the large businesses have been contacted directly via phone call. Today, we started doing just automated telephone calls to the residents if their numbers are on file. And a reminder to residents, if they have not been contacted by phone, they do not receive a phone call from Integris within the next day or two, to call Integris and get yourselves registered. We may not have up-to-date phone number information for our customers. Many people don't do that. And as well, people can sign up to receive SMS notifications from Integris by visiting integris.com/SMS, and you will receive automatic notifications when we're having these outages occur in town, and updates as well as on live outages. For those customers who are in the rural community, if you're a Hydro One customer, Hydro One also, you can Google, hit their website, hydro1.com, search outages, and they have an outage map as well. And under outages, you'll click on the planned tab, so they'll list their planned outages. Integris.com/outages or Hydro One outages, both sites maintain active maps with respect to active outages. As well, we put planned outages at the bottom of our website, so that's additional information that you can access if you want. And as well, the Integris customers, we encourage you to sign up, call our call center, update your phone information as well, and if you'd like to, you can sign up with integris.com.sms to receive text messages about the outages. We also have some helpful tips on our website, how to plan for an outage, things to think about. People who, we are contacting homeowners who have, may have breathing apparatus in their homes or life-saving equipment, so they're being spoken to directly, so they can make alternate plans to find a safe place and a safe location during that outage on October the 6th. And again, October 6th is the set date, 7 to 2. Full town outage, there will be no power servicing anything in town. And the rain date is October 20th. So we want to make sure residents are aware. And I'm going to turn over to Allison.
So if you haven't met Allison yet, Allison Phillips is our emergency management coordinator. I don't know if she's appeared at council yet. I'm not sure she has. So take it away, Allison.
Thanks very much. As Michael said, I am Allison Phillips. I'm the emergency management coordinator with the municipality, started at the end of March. It's not often that we receive advance notice of a power outage. So in this case, we wanted to take advantage of that notice and make sure that we can inform the community and provide some preparedness measures as much as possible. We've been working with Integris very closely the last week or so. As Tomo said, they're doing 2 rounds of notifications themselves, and they've been speaking with large industry and business in the area. On the municipal side, we have created some informative handouts, including what residents can expect and how they can prepare themselves. Economic development will be going door to door to businesses at the end of the week to provide them with some information as well. I've been connecting with some of our key stakeholders, Medivy EMS, police and ambulance dispatch, all the relevant internal departments, as well as the provincial emergency management. We're putting together some question and answer sheets for our customer service reps so that if 311 is getting some calls, they'll have relevant information to share. We're also planning to do a media release and some social media posts in the next 1.5 weeks. Tomo mentioned that Hydro also has a list of people who identify as having a life-supporting device that relies on power. EMS also has a list of those vulnerable populations, and they will be able to check on those individuals as well and ensure that they have the preparedness they need in advance. We're also reaching out to the 3 retirement homes in Tilbury, and Tilbury Fire, we're in works of, even though that's a volunteer station, potentially having crew on site that day as well. So I'll open it up to any questions anyone has about this process.
Councillor Anderson?
Thank you, and through you. What was the rain date again?
Sorry, October 20th, so 2 weeks later.
Sorry, I thought you said the 13th, and I'm like, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions for Councillor Story?
This is very helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for bringing this to our attention. Are the 2 401 on routes going to be part of that outage?
As far as I'm aware, all street lights, so traffic control will not be operating during the outage unless they have some sort of a backup power supply. So when you mean the on-ramps where there's a lights and turn off, those would most likely be affected as far as I'm aware. They're all served from the station. So the entire town of Tilbury, as well as much of the rural area, will be taken out. The best place to get the information on the rural areas outside of the town of Tilbury would be through Hydro One's outage website. They'll have the update there as well. So I can't be I specifically don't know exactly which ones, but anything that's fed from the station in Tilbury will be put out.
Okay, I'm wondering, just brainstorming, if that, I think the Tilbury 401 service station, they have those massive billboards now on their property. Would that be worth considering, just popping it up on that, just to put it out there? Because obviously a lot of folks coming through would not be aware, like transiting through our community, but in the Tilbury area on the 401 service center. So just, I'm wondering if that might be an option. I'm not sure.
Yes,
But
that's a good point. I'm not certain if the en routes have backup generation on site to keep the power going. I would assume that an operation like that would, but I wouldn't know for certain. They're not our customers.
Okay.
So we'd have to speak to Hydro One on that. But I could reach out to Hydro One to ask.
Okay, thanks very much. Appreciate this update.
Any other questions? Seeing none, back to you yourself, Mr. Dubin.
Thank you, Your Acting Worship. So the only other item we wanted to bring an update on, and I apologize, we try to do things by putting them on the agenda, but we've had a couple last-minute things, including this one, but also Wheatley. As some of you know, we did communicate via the subscription service on the weekend. We've had some developments in Wheatley that are I think it's good news, but I'll turn it over to Mr. Brown, and he'll let you know what we're doing. We have a short PowerPoint presentation just to give members of council a bit of an update on what we're dealing with there.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor and Council. I wanted to come back with an update on the investigation. We've been really busy in the last 2 weeks. I'm sure you've seen our notices about we got started on the project. And we had a busy weekend, and so we wanted to come and just share a little bit about where we're at. We have excavated the majority of the site, maybe 80–90% of it, working our way from the north around the corner. We found lots of interesting things. We found several hand-dug water wells that are no deeper than that photo shows on the left-hand side, which were excavated out and were no deeper. We found old barrels and bottles and garbage and all sorts of artifacts you might find in a downtown when you excavate, but nothing too of interest. Saturday, late Saturday, the team came across the structure that you can see on your screen on the left-hand side. It's old wooden cribbing, they call it, which is kind of consistent with something they would have built to drill an oil or gas well or to abandon it. And so they found that, they removed the dirt and kept digging down. There was no gas readings at this time, and there's still none to date. I'll explain that in a bit. But they did excavate it as far as they could reach, which was about 16 feet is the photo on the right-hand side. And you can see clearly there's still a feature that's going deeper into the earth. They cannot go any further. The excavator they have on site can't get down further, and they can't get any tools in the wellbore currently. And so we're leading into the next steps of our operational plan with this. Through the investigation, we've done a lot of record searching back even into 21, and the only indication of anything ever been here is this information before you. It was a ministry inspection in 1993, which shows a dot on the bottom of the screen. It's kind of hard to read here, but it says 3, and the notes on the left-hand side correspond and say that there was a potential gas well used by the dairy. And this is the only mention in any M&RF archive of a well. There is no corresponding records or abandonment records, and it also says that it was abandoned in the 1930s. This area was investigated in 21. We found no gas readings. It's under what is 17 Elm, which used to be the former Car Barn restaurant. And so there was nothing more we could do with this information at the time. But that dot corresponds very closely to what we found. So the team does firmly believe that we do have a petroleum well that we found that we don't have any records on.
So what are the actions taken to date? So over the weekend, we contacted the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry and the MECP according to our operations plan. So we have been in contact with them at the staff level for the inspectors, but also at higher levels that the executive management team's been involved with. We have found very small amounts of gas at surface. You can detect 300 parts per million of methane at the air, which is very low compared to what we have coming out of our monitoring well that's on site. There's no H2S that's been detected around this well, and it seems clear that it's plugged, whether that's from dirt over time or if it's actually been abandoned at some point in time. And we just want to reiterate, there's no risk to public safety in its current state. We did confirm with the MNRF, they are looking for us. They're going to go through everything we did in 21 again to just try to confirm if there's any more records about this well, which would be really helpful. We've been sending updates through the subscription service. One just recently went out minutes ago to try to keep the community updated as this situation unfolds. And we did start making calls Sunday to mobilize the operational plan, which is to bring a drilling rig to site with all their tools. And it is a lot of work to do that. There's a lot of transports that have to come to bring all that. And so that's what we're going to be working on this week. So we need to deliver all of this equipment. Most of it is on standby in Sarnia. That was part of the project, that if we found something, we would call them and bring it. We have to prepare the site for this drill rig and lay gravel and bring the well up so they can get into it. So there's a bit of preparation work the community is going to see this week. We are potentially hoping to stand the rig up later this week and turn it on Saturday, pending everything going well. And but once what I want to iterate to the community is that once they start, the operational plan has always been that when the drill rig starts, they will be working 24/7. They have 2 shifts that'll be working 12 hours. So once they start, they will not stop until they drill out the well and then decide the next steps. There are some potentials for short-term road closures as we move in all of this equipment, but nothing the community hasn't seen. Half an hour to bring in a transport, but we may be closing off the parking on the north side of Talbot. Obviously, this could change and we'd communicate it, but this is the plan so far. There's no evacuations required or businesses that are going to be required to close over this. This is what the team planned for if we found something, and we don't have a hazardous well that's emitting gas. We found a well, but it appears to be plugged. We are holding a community question and answer period with the site staff and our consultants and some Chatham-Kent representatives tomorrow at 2 p.m. at the Wheatley Village Resource Center. We're communicating that out through the subscription service. There's a sign going up in town about it. And the real intent here is we don't have a lot more information than what I've told you, but more about the immediate community, what they're going to see, what they can expect, because we know there's a lot of anxiousness in the community as they'll see all this equipment coming in. So that is tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We'll obviously post all that information online for everyone to view after it, and if they can't make it. And the fire department remains on scene, communicating with nearby neighbors. We did all that emergency planning work beforehand, so we have everyone's contact information, and they've been working through those plans. What I want to show is this is the actual drilling rig that's coming, that's been contracted by 360. And I show these pictures to give the community a sense of this is a very big piece of machinery, much bigger than we had on site in 2021 and 22. There's lots of lights. It's very loud. And so we know that's going to impact the community, and we did share that with them as a conceptual plan, but now it's becoming reality. So the community can expect a lot of trucks moving in, a lot more people on the site, and all this equipment has to fit in the site that we have currently, and maybe we have to move the fence out and take the parking area to fit it all in. But because this is a 24/7 operation, there's going to be noise, there could be dust, depending on the kind of weather we have. But we also want to reiterate, for finding a well, this is the best case scenario, that it's not emitting gas. We can bring in the proper equipment that's all contained. This is what this drill rig is designed for, so that when they drill into the well, if it does release gas, it's going to be all captured by the drilling rig and sent out the stack on top. For reference, this is the site. Looks a little different today now that we've excavated all the concrete, but all that equipment, the intent is to fit on the site and on Elm Street at the north of the photo where we have our command center now. I also wanted to share this photo. We've shared it before at community meetings, and it shows the different layers of earth where you can find our water layers on top, and then as you go down, we can find oil and gas resources. And it shows how abandoned wells that are maybe not plugged all the way to the bottom can leak gas up. That can get into different layers and move across to a different well. And this is what we're experiencing on site with our monitoring well is really a water well. And the gas is somehow getting over to it. And so what's interesting about this and potentially hopeful is that if what we have is in the middle of the screen there and we can enter the well and we can control this gas, there is a chance that this could be the source of the gas that's emitting on site, and there's a potential that we could stop it. So the team's very excited about that. There's absolutely no guarantees, but this is a unique discovery that could actually help the problem long term. And if something really successful like that happens, it may change what are the acceptable land uses of the site once we're complete with the project. Those are my slides, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you for your time.
Before any questions, I'm going to turn it back to Mr. Dubin.
Thank you, Your Acting Worship. So I know that there will probably be some questions on a few different things, but Ryan, perhaps if you can just confirm with council, you talked about some time ago what the plan was in terms of if we found a hazardous well, what the cost would be versus not finding a hazardous well. So we're now at that stage where we have found something, we're obviously mobilizing, we're bringing in bigger equipment. Can you just talk about where we're at in terms of our financial thresholds and perhaps remind council what we thought those two levels were going to be?
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. So the original budgets presented to council were $2.6 million to start the project, go on site, excavate it, demobilize, all of that, if we find nothing. That's very close to where we're at to date because we did almost excavate the entire site. We are on budget and potentially slightly under that to date. I believe some of the estimates I had were in the 1.8 million range, and we haven't had a lot of contingency items on the project. So that was the initial ask. And then the budgets I presented to council were upwards of about 6 million, depending on what we find and how complicated it is. I have no indication to date that we're going to get all the way to 6. This well could be very shallow, it could be very deep, it could be very complicated. So I'm committed to council that if at any time we're in a position where those estimates are becoming met, we'll obviously be back to give you an update on that. But at this time, the project is on budget with what we had presented, those 2 items.
And maybe I'll just make the last comment, and then the acting worship, if you want to offer question opportunities. We're in constant contact with the province. We had a discussion with the province at AMO as well, for those of us that attended. I had a separate conversation with the minister at AMO after the delegation. They're fully aware of these dollars. We told them in advance what the the worst possible scenario and the least, I guess the 2.6 million scenario. We do not have a commitment from them yet in writing that we can tell you about, but we can tell you they were fully aware that we'd be coming to them and asking them for their support. They have been very supportive all along, to the tune of, I don't know the exact number, but 10 million plus already. And I fully expect that they'll be there. None of us here can guarantee that as members of staff, but we're very confident that they will be there. They've been by our side. Ryan's had discussions with them even on a weekend about some of these findings, and we had a discussion last week as well. So we'll continue once this is resolved and we know what our final cost is. We'll definitely put in a request to the province, and we're quite hopeful that they'll be generous with us as they have been in the past.
Open up for any questions. Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Acting Mayor. I don't necessarily have questions. I just want to reiterate what this means to the community of Wheatley, to have had the support of administration and the province and council in general to get to this point. I feel like, we went into this not really knowing what was going to happen, and a hope and a wish that maybe something like this would happen. And although we don't know that this is for sure the source. The fact that we have found something, and that we already have the approval to go ahead and try to remediate that really means a lot to the community of Wheatley for us to be able to better plan our future and what that looks like. I want to reiterate, there will be a meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. and we understand that this meeting is coming with not a lot of notice, but I mean, the discovery of this is something that didn't come with a lot of notice. And with how quickly things are going to be mobilized, it was really, really important to Teresa Watson, to Chatham-Kent, and to the rest of the team there that there was an opportunity to get information out to the community as soon as possible. So the date and time may not be as ideal as the community may think, but anything that is discussed tomorrow, I spoke to Teresa Watson today. She will be posting her slides on the Let's Talk page so that anybody that's unable to make it, they will be able to get all the updates of where we're at on that site by simply going to the Let's Talk page and being able to gather their information from there. And I just want to reiterate, Ryan, that you have been a pioneer and a hero to our town, and I'm so grateful for your advocacy and for your team that's on site and for the team that you have put together there. I've been on site several times, and every time I go there, everyone is welcoming and they're free to share information. And I'm offered every single time to go on site and see what it looks like. And I think that if it wasn't for you and your team bringing this together, we would definitely not be at this optimistic and hopeful stage that we're at right now. So thank you very, very, very much.
Any other questions for Mr. Brown? I see none. Reading of the bylaws, can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor McGrail, Councillor Story.
I'll move that.
I will second.
All four? Resolution of council enclosed. Oh, sorry. I apologize. There's my first mistake. Can I get a motion for the third and final reading for the bylaws, please? Councillor Finn, followed by Councillor Brock McGregor.
Happy to move.
So seconded?
All in favor? Now we'll go to the resolution in closed session. Councillor Crew.
Thank you. I move that Chatham-Kent Council adjourn to its next meeting to be held Monday, October 7th, 2024, and that Chatham-Kent Council authorize itself to meet in closed session that day to discuss any matters permitted by the Municipal Act. I so move.
Motion to adjourn. Councillor Wright, followed by Councillor Allen.
I'll move to close the meeting.
Seconded.
So move. Oh, show of hands, I guess. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.